with. So we're going to be talking about clearing the coast, scaling up the action against marine debris.
I want to sort of get involved in a more collaborative effort more, so like I say, we can engage with other charities. There's another, the Fishing at Zero guys that are doing work in the Clyde as well, so kind of working with them and collaborating our efforts and stuff, and almost maybe kind of sharing some kind of database between ourselves about, when were we last on this site, what's left on this site, so we kind of finite the sort of cleans and stuff that we do.
I think picking up your point there is really an opportunity for us all being here today and working together to actually start to map where we're all doing our activity, because we know for the Clean Tip Foundation do, we've got a national map of where they're happening and where they're not, and there's big blank spaces in there. So many people in the room here involved in doing similar, and maybe putting that data together and mapping it across the UK might show us some areas where we collectively might want to try and focus some attention on.
I think if everything's been talked about already today, I think that's been the one thing that I've taken away, is that everybody's doing such amazing work in their own little areas and kind of fighting their own fight. That by putting everything together, we've got a much better chance of, putting greater success, yes.
Claire, you had something to say. You do a lot with community engagement, don't you? So
yeah, and I think that's kind of where I want to go with this, because I think we're all in this room doing so much with beach cleaning. As we've said, we're all out there every day beach cleaning, and that's great, but that only goes so far. So if all we ever do is beach clean, then all we're ever going to do is beach clean. We know that less than 1% of ocean litter makes its way to land. So what we're collecting in our tons and thousands and millions of tons, it's millions of tons, whatever, whatever we're collecting is less than 1% of the actual problem. So yes, it's brilliant that we're doing that, but I think we need to accept that beach cleaning only goes far enough. And it is our bread and butter. I'm not disparaging it in the slightest. But I think we need to start turning the conversation to what comes next. So I always think that a beach clean is a really easy win, right? It's a bit like a gateway drug. So if you imagine you're at your party and then someone's like, let's go do a little 2-minute beach clean, just, because we're 2 minutes. And so someone gives it a try and they're like, yeah, that was all right, actually. I quite enjoyed that. It wasn't so bad. I might do it again. And then they do it again. And then the next time they do it, they take someone else along and they're like, have a look go at this. It's not that bad. And then before you know it, they're dabbling in more extreme kinds of activism. A beach clean is a very easy way to start a conversation about what else we can be doing. And I think that's a really important part of what today needs to be, because we're all so actively involved in beach cleaning, and that's amazing, but what comes next? And how do we take people on that journey with us to actually making sure that we're all out of a job in 100 years because there's nothing left to clean? That's ultimately what we want, right? We all want to be unemployed because there is no need for beach cleaning anymore. Wouldn't that be the perfect solution?
from a public perception, it's the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? You're just showing them, you're getting them out there, engaging and seeing the final kind of tiny bits that are happening. But behind that, there's a lot more that we need to do. Did you have something to say? Go for it.
I think one of the ways I find it helpful to think about it, to express exactly that idea with the public, is that beach cleans are first aid. It's the immediate, it's the emergency, and I don't want people to lose that sense of purpose that they have from, that piece of plastic that, somebody takes off the beach and one of our cleans collectively might have been a piece of plastic that gets tangled around a seal's neck and kills that seal. And I think people do need to remember that they are literally doing things which are making a difference. But it's first aid, it's not treating the problem. And I can say this because we're amongst friends, and I know we have to maintain relationships and work with industry, but seeing some of the discussions, seeing some of the numbers, what we're doing sometimes with our beach cleans is treating the symptoms of what is, we use litter as shorthand, but what we're talking about is unregulated dumping and abandoning of industrial waste. Which an industry isn't really paying for. And I think we need to link what we do on the beaches through partnerships, but making sure, particularly with policymakers, we are having that conversation, because if we don't address the root cause of a very significant proportion of the litter that we find, we're going to be here in 100 years doing our beach cleans and saying the same things.
It's a really big question. If the UK could do one thing to drastically change the debris situation, what could it be? And then we'll scale it down to what we can all do. But is there one thing? Too big a question?
That's a massive question, isn't it?
Yeah.
My obsession, living in Cornwall, I must say, for those of you that haven't visited Cornwall, all of the imagery that we're seeing today about Scotland is absolutely happening in Cornwall and North Devon as well. This isn't a Scotland-only problem. It's happening on the west coast of Wales as well. So I know we're here to talk about Scotland today, but whatever we discuss today is relevant all over. But what I'm seeing on our beaches is nurdles all the time, in their billions and billions and billions. We will have all seen that there's that biobead spill just happening in Canberra. And I would say the one thing that the UK government can do would be to regulate and monitor nurdle spills, because at the moment they are not monitored. No one knows about them, no one has to report them, and therefore no one has to do anything about them. Right.
And I think, going back to our last point, it's the UK being more aggressive and catching up to lots of the rest of the G7 in Europe in applying polluter pays principle. And I think sometimes there's a hiding behind we're not deliberately dumping this stuff. It's an accident. And actually, who cares? That doesn't make a difference. It's still there. And I think that there is a reluctance to really engage with that question in depth.
I would really like to see a difference of perception that people have, that if they dump it in the sea, it's gone and it's out of sight and out of mind, because we can tell what you've dumped. It doesn't matter whether it's 6 metres deep, 30 metres deep, or 130 metres deep. We can see what you've done. You're fine. And also we can see what you've lost. We know it's there, so don't think you can get away with it. Yeah.
I think we maybe need to examine the diversity of types of waste that we're picking up, and I think there needs to be a much stronger understanding that just having the weight of it, the totals being given in weight, we need to be looking more closely at. For example, when I come onto a beach and it's really badly polluted, I have to triage. So a lump of polystyrene is so much more damaging, and it's so much more important to get that out. Than I could pull a tyre off and I would have a much higher total, than me, but actually the lump of polystyrene is doing much more harm. And I think we are going to be dealing with this stuff. I mean, if we got it done and dusted in 100 years, that'd be amazing, but that's not happening. We're going to be dealing with this stuff forever, and we need to get more nuanced about what the different types of waste are. And I also think that we need to be really careful to keep a really positive relationship with the industry behind it. I mean, obviously, up in the far northwest, we've got a lot of stuff coming in from the fish farms, we've got a lot of stuff from the creels, we've got a lot of stuff from the trawlers, but we need to keep a positive relationship with them. The wrist slapping culture, especially when you're working with young people, it's not helpful, and it's actually can be actively damaging. So what we're doing is working to keep the channels of communication as open as we can. And I think that is really, really important from our side of the discussion. We really need to keep this positive if we're going to get positive solutions, and if we're going to make these industries feel it's incumbent upon them to be a part of the solution. But that's only going to happen if we keep this. Well, it's not only going to happen, but it is important to keep it positive, in my view.
And I totally agree with everything you just said.
It is quite a big. It's unfortunate being at the last of the row. Everyone else
But if you're talking from like a government level and people who can't make change, I just wish they'd listen. At the end of the day, just listen to the local guys who are on the ground doing the work, and not making it all about the big bad companies and their money at the end of the day.
And that leads me on brilliantly to sort of my last question before we open up for floor questions. But is there something that we have an engaged crowd here of highly intelligent, passionate people? One thing that you'd like from them to help you to move forward with scaling up the cleaning of the ocean, with the debris cycle, all of that. One little thing that you'd like from these people. Dun, dun. Start that in.
Okay, I see how this.
What could they do to help?
Give me your name, your number, and your email.
Keep talking about it, even if it starts to feel overwhelming. Keep talking about it. Keep explaining it to our young people. It's such a cliche, but they are the future. They grow up really fast. You know, keep talking about it. Keep explaining it. Don't give up. Don't give them the sense that you've given up. You know, try to keep it positive and, yeah, just keep talking about it.
I think probably everybody in this room does this anyway, but when you come to buy your Christmas sweets this year for Christmas, please think of the ones that aren't individually wrapped, because in July I don't want to be picking up 20,000 sweet wrappers from the beach from one person's Christmas box.
That's why you get.
Listen up, Quality Street.
I think it's difficult because it's such a mixed audience. People come from so many different perspectives, but I think particularly something to there's many creative people in the room and people who are literally creatives in terms of what they do. And I think that's helped us find ways of getting the message over to the public in a way which engages them. I mean, we've struggled sometimes with a dip in public engagement. We saw a huge period after COVID where, you know, we live in a coastal city and the beach was everybody's place to go. And I think that stimulated a lot of public engagement. I think that's dropped off a little bit now. So can people find ways to help us get the public thinking about why they might want to do this, how they might help, not just in terms of the beach cleans, but in terms of the wider issue?
I think this doesn't really apply to any of us here because we're here, but I think the best thing that can happen for the environmental sector of the UK at the moment and for the environment is to leave our egos at the door. And there are people that have that ego. We've all worked with people with that ego that don't want to share data, that don't want to share their campaigns, that don't want to collaborate. There's no space for them, and they're not here today. And there's a reason they're not here today, because they're not willing to find solutions together. So I would just encourage us all to keep that integrity and authenticity and leave our egos at the door and realise that we are stronger together. Despite the fact that you might have had a great idea and you know what funding pot is going to fund it, if you think someone can help, try and remember that we are all working for the same thing, and we are better when we work together.
And that's really what One Wave is all about, isn't it? And I think trying to remember as well, when you need to explain something or you need a bit more research data, there's all these people at your fingertips now that you've met through this and you can rely on to help.